Hey folks, welcome back to Canada's Boxing Channel. I hope everyone's doing well, getting ready for the fights. I saw an interview conducted by Boxing King Media of Billie Nelson. I had to watch it twice. His accent's really hard for me to catch everything, even though I spend time talking to Andy from Andy's Cavern. Billie Nelson, man, I need subtitles for that guy. Anyhow, he was asked a number of questions, and he was quite direct. He was asked about signing up BAKOLE to fight Parker, whether or not that was a good idea. And he said, look, I got the offer, I passed it to Martin. Martin accepted the offer, we came to Riyadh, we lost, we went home. And he said, look, when he first met Martin BAKOLE came to Scotland with a hole in a donut. In other words, he came to Scotland with nothing. And now Martin BAKOLE is a millionaire. I presume pound sterling millionaire. He's got homes, he's got properties, and he's done very well. So Billie Nelson is very happy for Martin BAKOLE and for what Martin BAKOLE has achieved. And of course, he has, not just as his coach, but as his manager, guided Martin BAKOLE. The interviewer asked him about Martin BAKOLE being dressed in everything Gucci. And Billie Nelson said, I don't know anything about Gucci. I don't wear any Gucci. I don't know how much they cost. It's quite funny. I'm so tempted to try and mock his accent, but I'll mess it up and it'll just look really, really cringe, so I won't bother. He did say, in quite seriousness, that a lot of people have been trying to take Martin BAKOLE off him. And he said that people contact Martin BAKOLE and leave him voice messages and say, along the lines of, hey, listen, you should come and sort of work with me. And Martin BAKOLE apparently just forwards the messages to Billie Nelson. The question was pertaining to loyalty. You're very loyal to your fighter. Is your fighter very loyal to you? And as evidence of that loyalty, Billie Nelson was saying, yeah, Martin sends these messages to me. I then phone these people, have a word with them, and send the message to my lawyer, and all that sort of stuff. So I guess there are rules about not poaching fighters off coaches and fighters off managers. When he was talking about the upcoming fight today, Efe Ajagba, he said that Efe Ajagba went all Manchester United on Martin BAKOLE. And I wouldn't have gotten that reference. It was contextual. I believe what it means is that Efe Ajagba was getting in Martin's face and getting all sort of annoying. He said, you don't want to make Martin mad. He described Efe Ajagba as tall, lanky, with a good jab and backhand. He said that Martin's got a very solid chin. Martin's never been hurt, except in that fight with Joseph Parker. He said he went down from an illegal shot. It's actually the first time I've heard him say that, because of course he was hit on the temple. But Billie Nelson went on to say that happens all the time in boxing. So there was no suggestion that Joseph Parker had sort of done that nefariously or, with malintent. He said Martin just couldn't get under it because he was carrying too much weight. Now that's going to be remedied. He said that he'd read Martin BAKOLE, some sort of version of the Riot Act, about how you've got to stay in shape, because the interviewer asked him, it seems that Martin doesn't sort of stay in match shape. Apparently, he's been in the gym every day since the Parker fight. He thought he would weigh in at 20 stone 7 pounds, which, if my math is right, is 187. When he weighed in, of course, 287, but he weighed in at 299, so that's almost a stone more. So anyhow, he said that hopefully there's going to be another fight coming up in the summer, June, July, and that he would, after finishing off Ajagba, he would take a couple of days and he'd be back in the gym again. There was an interesting thing. The interviewer said to Billie Nelson, you're one of the few coaches that speaks your mind. You don't seem to be frightened. And the interviewer went through a list. He said, there's you, Joe Gallagher, Dom Ingle, Tony Sims, and then Billy Nelson said, "Oh, and Peter Fury. Peter Fury is a pal of mine." But interesting, whose names were not mentioned. So remember the names that were mentioned: Billy Nelson, Joe Gallagher, Dom Ingle, Peter Fury, Tony Sims, are people who are not frightened of upsetting the apple cart and speaking their mind. You all can figure out whose names were missing from that list. Not calling anybody out, Don Charles. Anyhow, moving along. There was some talk about rehydration clauses. There was a little bit of conversation about Ben Eubank. Billy Nelson said the British Boxing Board of Control shouldn't have allowed that fight to proceed, should not have blessed that rehydration clause. And any discussion now about investigating Eubank would be unfounded, because he wasn't using a sauna, he was using a sweatsuit. And apparently everybody uses those type of sweatsuits. Oh, I forget. When the interviewer asked Martin Bakole about, the proprietary of whether or not it was proper to allow Bakole to fight Parker on short notice, Billy Nelson said, "You're referring to Eddie Hearn, aren't you?" And the interviewer was, "Oh no, well there's a number of people." And Billy Nelson said, "No, it's Eddie Hearn. Ask him about Cal Brook. He put Cal Brook in with Triple G, and Cal Brook got his eyeball socket broke, and that was, and why nobody was allowed in the dressing room to see Lewis Crocker. Ask him about that. He's never answered that. So there's some animus between Eddie Hearn and Billy Nelson. Though Billy Nelson did say that Eddie Hearn was the best promoter out there. I have no doubt that he can sell. Absolutely no doubt. A serpent, but he can definitely sell. What else was talked about? Oh yeah, there was a good thing. I did not know this, but Martin Bakole apparently does a lot of charitable good works in his home country of the Democratic Republic of the Congo, including building a hospital, building a shopping center, providing people with transportation to get to a hospital. This is all in his sort of hometown, home village, of which there is a king, and the king is his father. He is a prince. So apparently Martin Bakole has been spending money and doing good works in his home country. And that's always nice to hear, giving back to the community that, brought you up and all that sort of stuff. Noblesse oblige. Particularly apt, since he is indeed a prince of the realm. So it was a nice interview. I had to watch it twice because Billy Nelson's accent is not one that my ears are acclimated to, and I'm so tempted to try and copy it, but I know I can't. I try when I'm talking to Andy at Andy's Cavern. We should subscribe to that channel, and it fails dramatically. So I'm not going to do it for everybody on here. Hope you've enjoyed this. Please hit like. Please share. Please subscribe to this channel if you can. That would be awesome. Keep the comments coming. It's probably one of the best parts of my day is going through comments in the morning. And wherever you are in the world, have a fabulous day. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.